Karai. In the 2012 animated series, the reveal is immediate and devastating. Karai is not Shredder's daughter by blood. She is Hamato Miwa, Splinter's daughter from his first marriage, reborn as Oroku Saki's heir. Raised by the Foot Clan under fabricated memories, she spent her entire life believing she was the Shredder's child, trained as a warrior, positioned as the perfect instrument of his will, never knowing she was Splinter's daughter, returned in a different body. The Turtles have to tell her the truth. That inversion, enemy daughter is actually your daughter, is one of the most emotionally precise reincarnation beats in TMNT's entire run across any medium. The I Do comic series handles her very differently. This Karai is not a soul reborn, but a blood descendant of Oroku Saki, pulled from roughly 300 years of family history, placed in a lineage that produced another Foot Clan leader through heredity rather than transmigration. That distinction is the whole point of the version. She becomes second in command of the Foot Clan, not through inherited memory or spiritual continuity, but through an act of resurrection. She helps bring Shredder back to life, and his return earns her the position beside him. Reincarnation in the IDW sense would require a soul carrying Hamato Miwa's consciousness into a new body 3 centuries later. The mechanism here is blood, not soul, legacy, not rebirth, and the entire arc of the character is built around what inheritance means when it operates through family rather than through the universe recycling a consciousness. IDW's The Last Ronin storyline closes the loop with an image that lands harder than any summary could. An aged Karai exists on life support sustained across decades, maintained by her son Hiroto. And Hiroto decides to end it. He destroys the systems keeping her alive. The story doesn't linger on how he reached that decision or what it cost him, it simply shows the cutoff. 3 centuries of Saki's bloodline carried through Karai's life ends the moment Hiroto pulls the plug. The daughter who wasn't really Miwa but occupied her role, the leader who rebuilt the Foot Clan through resurrection rather than reincarnation, dies by the choice of the son who outlives her. Michelangelo. For every other version of the character, Michelangelo is a turtle named after an artist, a naming coincidence that has never meant anything more than that. IDW's comics changed the terms entirely. This Michelangelo is not just sharing a name. He is a reincarnation of Hamato Michelangelo, the original Splinter, not the mutant rat the Turtles have always known, but the human ninja master from 3 centuries prior who carried that name before his soul was reborn into a turtle body. The implication is that Michelangelo has been carrying the consciousness and spirit of his own namesake across lifetimes, placing him alongside his brothers as reincarnated sons of Hamato Yoshi, with a shared backstory rooted in their former human lives. What IDW does with that premise strips away everything the character has traditionally been. Since his first appearance in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 in May of 1984, Michelangelo has been the comic relief, the laid-back, pizza-loving, joke-cracking younger brother whose levity balanced his siblings' heavier dispositions. Over 100 issues and 3 decades of comics across multiple continuities, that function barely shifted. What this reveals about the larger IDW relaunch is that it isn't treating the Turtles as a brand that needs protecting. It is treating them as 4 individual stories about what happens when a family built on shared trauma and shared identity gets dismantled. Michelangelo's arc, as a reincarnated son of Hamato Yoshi navigating a new mutant life, reflects the broader TMNT theme of identity across reincarnation and mutation. A reincarnated soul used to be a mystical flourish, a detail in a backstory. Here it is the mechanism that made this version possible at all, and what it produced is someone unrecognizable to the fans who met him in 1984. That is the point. The series isn't asking what the Turtles would be like as adults. It is asking what they would be like if the thing that made them who they are simply wasn't there. Subscribe and tell us in the comments which reincarnated TMNT character you think was the most jarring departure from the original. Let's get back into it. Raphael. Michelangelo's story might have started at the franchise's birth, but Raphael's begins with absence, and not the kind you can just fix with a group hug. In the IDW comics, Raphael is one of the reincarnated sons of Hamato Yoshi, executed along with his brothers by Oroku Saki in medieval Japan. When he's reborn centuries later, it isn't as a destined champion or beloved sibling, it's as a laboratory test subject in StockGen research, courtesy of Baxter Stockman's genetic experiments. From the very start, fate shoves Raphael to the edge. During the mutation that turns 4 turtles into something more, he's separated from his brothers and left to fend for himself. Picture that, a newly mutated being alone on city streets, tasked with survival without a clan or a sense of belonging. By the time he finally crosses paths with the others, the streets have carved something fierce into him. Raphael has already learned how to trust no one and how to fight for everything, gathering more scars than guidance, and forging an unlikely friendship with Casey Jones along the way. It's not just a personality quirk. Raphael's rage and blunt edges aren't thrown in for drama, they're a consequence of early trauma. While his brothers are learning ninjutsu together under Splinter, Raphael is out in the wild, improvising survival tactics and building walls nobody else can see. His chosen weapon isn't elegant either, a pair of sai, always ready to block or to strike, and a red mask, marking him as both part of the family and apart from it. Now, just when you think being abandoned, mutated, and left to survive solo is the end of it, reality sharpens its knives. There's no feel-good redemption here, just the facts. Raphael is who he is, not just because of reincarnation, but because loss, violence, and isolation were forced on him since birth. The implications are brutal and honest. The universe gave Raphael a second chance at life, then made sure it hurt just as much the second time around. Donatello. Where Raphael's story throws everything off balance, Donatello's origin proves there was never a real balance to begin with. In the IDW Comics continuity, Donatello isn't simply a gifted turtle, he's the literal reincarnation of Hamato Donatello, one of 4 sons murdered alongside Hamato Yoshi by Oroku Saki in feudal Japan. The supposed rules of identity, memory, and destiny don't hold. The Hamato family, Donatello, his brothers, and father are all reborn in a modern laboratory as a gray rat and 4 green turtles test subjects at StockGen under the supervision of Baxter Stockman. It doesn't stop there. Donatello's mother, Tang Shen, was herself mortally wounded by the Foot Clan's enforcers before her husband and sons were killed, sealing tragedy as part of his cycle. After the turtles' mutation from harmless hatchlings into humanoid beings, Splinter, remembering his past life as Hamato Yoshi, trains the 4 in ninjutsu for 15 months. Donatello wields the bow staff, and the purple mask is his badge of individuality, given not long after he's reunited with Raphael, the brother who'd been separated from them since mutation. Donatello starts this life as an experimental water turtle, a literal guinea pig at StockGen, before the mutagen upends everything. He's not a natural-born warrior or a child chosen by fate, but something closer to a living science project. The simple explanation would be that Donatello's gifts are the result of ninja training and accidental mutation, a clever rat teaching a smart turtle how to use a stick. But all of that is just surface. Q&A's presence, mystic engineering, guided reincarnation, and casual time travel crack any rational timeline in half. Donatello doesn't just learn, he remembers, and he manipulates what should be immutable. Everything boils down to the machinery of this universe. The Hamato family's destiny isn't just cosmic roulette, it's a mechanism written in the body itself. Q&A decides who returns, why they're chosen, and even lets Donatello cheat rules no one else even knows exist. Being smart isn't enough. In this world, being Donatello means already being built from a deeper blueprint the ordinary world was never told about. Leonardo. If Donatello's reincarnation felt remote, a past life showing up as stray visions in a tinkerer's dreams, Leonardo is the opposite, immediate, inescapable, and positioned at the center of everything. In the IDW Comics continuity, Leonardo is the eldest of Hamato Yoshi's reincarnated sons. This wasn't collateral damage. Saki targeted Yoshi's whole bloodline down to the youngest son, and Leonardo died at the sharp end of that deliberate purge. Centuries later, 4 green turtles emerge from Baxter Stockman's StockGen research laboratory, and the eldest of them carries more than just turtle DNA. He carries a finished life that ended in an execution chamber. That memory doesn't stay buried. Leonardo drifts through vague, dreamlike flashes of his prior existence. He can see Tang Shun die, can feel the weight of swords he never held in this life, can hear his father's voice in a language his turtle brain has no business remembering. Where his brothers treat these fragments as confusing dreams, Leonardo doesn't brush them aside. He listens to Splinter's claims of reincarnation and accepts them without hesitation because the evidence is already swimming in his blood. He is, by every measure in this canon, the most loyal of the 4 brothers. Splinter's words aren't suggestions, they're law, delivered with the weight of a son who already lived through losing this family once. When Shredder closes in on Splinter, Leonardo doesn't deliberate. He leads the rescue, the eldest son stepping in front of the family again, pulling his brothers through because he's done this before, or at least the memory of having done it lives somewhere in his muscle and instinct, but that certainty, his deepest strength, is also his greatest vulnerability. Shredder doesn't just fight the turtles physically, he weaponizes their histories. Leonardo is kidnapped and handed over to Kitsune, the witch, who performs a memory-altering ritual that takes every vague, dreamlike recollection and turns it inside out. Suddenly, the one person Leonardo trusts above all others becomes, by manufactured memory, his tormentor. For a time, the only thing Leo recognizes is pain, and the black eye mask he dons, claimed from Slash after that shattering awakening, is the only symbol of a self he can still grasp. His conviction almost destroyed him, twisted by magic into the very weapon his enemies needed. The July 2024 IDW Comics relaunch puts Leonardo front and center again, his own issue in the first arc. That positioning isn't accidental. This version of Leonardo carries a specific kind of story. Reincarnation isn't mystical background noise here, it's the engine. The trauma of a feudal Japanese execution doesn't stay in the past when it's reborn as a mutant turtle's trauma response. Reincarnation in this canon is continuous, unfinished business, wounds that survive the death of the body that earned them, resurfacing across centuries in green shells and ninja masks. Splinter, where Leonardo's story is a man being torn between two sets of memories, Splinter is the other kind, a man who carries his fully and has already paid for it more than once. In both the IDW comics and the 2012 TV series, Splinter is Hamato Yoshi reincarnated. The weight of that identity shows in what Splinter has given up. In IDW's previous Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles volume, he died in issue number 100, not in a random street brawl, but by deliberate sacrifice. He gave his life to save the world and to reignite what little humanity was still flickering inside the shattered psyche of Shredder. That single act covered both his present family and his past unresolved conflict, collapsing 2 lifetimes of unfinished business into one final choice. That issue, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 100, was built by Kevin Eastman, Bobby Curnow, Tom Waltz, Dave Wachter, Michael Dialinas, Matthias Santaluco, Adam Gorham, Dan Duncan, Corey Smith, Rhonda Pattison, Bill Crabtree, and Sean Lee. It reads like an ending because it was meant to be one. But the universe had other ideas. In TMNT number 4, from Jason Aaron, Chris Burnham, Brian Reber, and Sean Lee, Donatello is trapped in a mutant fight club, broken and addled, and he mistakes a dead rat for his father. The moment lands with devastating specificity, not because it's random, but because the audience knows exactly what that loss cost. Splinter's absence cracked the entire family open, and Donatello, unable to hold the grief, turned to magic, pursued it past caution and past sense until he was traveling through time. The old foundation was gone, and Splinter's death had opened a door that nothing would close. You might ask whether any of this proves reincarnation is real or just narrative convenience. The evidence doesn't care about the distinction. Splinter died once in a story built around a sacrifice so total it involved saving the man who murdered him in a prior life. Then magic and time travel proved the rules were never as final as the ending suggested. Is any sacrifice ever the final one in a universe where death is a recurring event? That's the question the facts leave open, and nobody's answered it yet. Oroku Saki. It's one thing when a single sacrifice tips the balance, it's another when a death sends shockwaves through every realm that matters. Oroku Saki doesn't just end, he detonates. In the world of IDW, the scope is staggering. Saki's death in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 50 isn't a simple curtain call. It cracks open the door to something much larger. The entire Shredder in Hell series launches from this point, tracking Saki's plunge into the underworld after his ending. His journey isn't a linear resurrection or an easy rematch. It's a full-blown odyssey through the fundamental forces that built and potentially destroy the universe these characters inhabit. This isn't flavor text. The comics stack the specifics with surgical clarity. Shredder in Hell drags Oroku Saki into a collision with beings whose origins decide not just his fate, but the cycles of existence itself. Saki's path is marked by demigods, arcane forces, and, up close, the terrifying mechanics of immortality. Reincarnation isn't just thematic background here, it is official canon, calculated and repeated listing alongside ancient sorcery and twisted family ties as the axis on which Shredder's story turns. Every page in Shredder in Hell circles his discovery, stripping him bare until his so-called purpose and the sacred roots of the universe are all that remain. How does this happen? That's the question every reader hits before the end of even a single issue. Why would Saki, of all villains, journey to the afterlife, only to come face to face with the machinery behind birth and death itself? The answer lands fast. The writers, they put the Shredder at the heart of a metaphysical engine. Instead of dying and being remembered, he's forced to interrogate the cosmic rules that made him, the same rules inscribed in Blood and Shadow, by Kitsune, demigods, and whatever waits below. There's a temptation to fall back on the official explanation that Saki exists as an object lesson, that the reincarnation motif just spices up his legend, or keeps him on the board one continuity reset after another. And yes, he gets the grand tour, immortality, magic, gods, and hell as his personal playground. But watch who else gets those odds. Saki's arc every time thrusts him further from a mere boss fight or repeat villain and closer to the kind of mythic recurrence that swallows entire storylines and spits out new canon. Every time Oroku Saki returns, he doesn't just come back. He rewires what it means to die in this universe. Takeshi Tatsuo, if Oroku Saki's brand of reincarnation at least comes with official notice and moral hand-wringing, Takeshi Tatsuo's cycle is straight up brutal. There's not even the luxury of good intentions. In IDW continuity, the name Takeshi Tatsuo casts a shadow centuries long. The Foot Clan's founder haunts the world as the raw, violent spark at the core of this soul cycle. His first confirmed appearance drops in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Secret History of the Foot Clan #1 in 2013, debuting in a flash of steel and betrayal that sets the agenda for every Shredder to follow. The evidence stacks fast and sharp. Takeshi Tatsuo serves as a samurai retainer under Ashikaga Yu in feudal Japan, and his life ends the moment his power slips. Takeshi was killed by his own clan followers when he was at his weakest. The legacy isn't noble. It's violent, hungry, and razor-edged, with the first Foot Clan founder leaving this world not as a hero or master strategist, but as a lesson hammered home, outlived by the very cycle his soul ignites for centuries to come. This whole phenomenon gets confused with a simple legacy, as if Takeshi Tatsuo's mark on the Foot Clan is just a lineage or a torch passed down. That's not what's happening here. IDW draws the line in blood. Takeshi's soul isn't just an echo. Kitsune selected him as the vessel for her father, the dragon, binding his fate to a cycle that would outlive his mortal body. To shape future destinies, not merely repeat the past. There's no elegant afterlife and no solace in noble death. The contradiction at the heart of Takeshi Tatsuo's reincarnation is that the very thing that makes him legendary never lets him rest. And that's the system the Foot Clan calls destiny. Kitsune. However twisted Takeshi's fate became, nothing in his story matches Kitsune for scale. Here, the game isn't just legends repeating themselves. It's the entire machinery of the universe grinding under the weight of one individual's design. Kitsune is a shape-shifting witch and, in IDW, a shape-shifting witch who reappeared at the Pantheon. Kitsune is a shape-shifting witch from the era of feudal Japan who played an integral part in the Foot Clan's rise to prominence. The pattern of subtle interference explodes into catastrophe the moment Kitsune's ambitions cross a certain line. She doesn't just manipulate mortals, she duplicates souls. After Takeshi survives his ambush in the mountains, Kitsune finds him broken and nurses him back, even regrowing his missing right leg, not out of mercy, but to assemble the vessel for her dragon father's return. She forever alters the bloodline with a curse on Oroku Maji, guaranteeing that his firstborn son would echo Takeshi's soul. Her intimate relationship with Oroku Saki produces children and extends her reach through generations, all while she sets her sights on grooming a perfect host for her father with the Dragon Warrior Project. For Kitsune, the future is surgical, the past is recyclable, and even enemies become raw material for her schemes. At first, the evidence makes her case. She's unstoppable. Every time a Pantheon member dies, they're reborn, every memory intact. Kitsune reverses aging, enslaves loyalty with mind-altering magic, alters Leonardo's perception to pit him against Splinter, and ultimately kills her own sister Akka just to harvest divine blood for her ritual. The evidence is overwhelming. But rewind, these abilities make her all-powerful only on the surface. The price is instability. Kitsune's reincarnation is an engineered glitch. Instead of a soul moving on, the process duplicates it, always raising the risk of echoes, anomalies, and collateral damage. And the rest of the Pantheon are not idle participants, they're rivals, siblings, and obstacles, each pulling at the seams of her plans. The omnipotence is an illusion, and the very scope of her magic is what brings consequences crashing down. This entire machinery wasn't built simply for power, or to amuse gods with endless cycles of vengeance. The design is tuned for stakes, to create an environment where defeat isn't final and the past can become a battleground. In IDW, Kitsune's world is built for stories where the fight to outwit fate is never over, and that struggle is the point.